Hello everyone, it's your friend, your boy, Jet Blythe One, only with another exciting video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking with you. This is an interactive live Hangout AMA live stream. That means you guys can ask me anything. I'm here to spend time with you. The focus is on you and the questions that you have for me. I'm going to share this link with other people online so that they can join in on the festivities. So I'm going to be doing that now. I'm also going to be doing more of a split screen thing. Yo, Rap King, loading the streams. Good to have you. I hope you're doing well and having a happy, fun day today. Do you have any topics in particular that you'd like to discuss? I didn't make a standalone video talking about why I'm not a big fan of The Dark Knight Rises, largely because I feel like in the last stream, I talked a good bit about it. It largely has to do with it having like the worst villain in the trilogy. I just think they fumbled the bag on Bane. I didn't like the Talia al Ghul twist that they had in The Dark Knight Rises either. That was like an issue that I had with the film. Yo, Nerd Tinker, welcome. It's good to see you. Also, don't forget to hit that like button, guys. Truly appreciate it. Rap King said, do you think the Batgirl and Batman relationship is gross? So I think the Batgirl and Robin relationship is gross. Let's talk about it for real. Also, thank you for smashing that like button. So the issue is Batgirl, when she was first introduced to the comics, was like 25 or something like that. Like Batgirl was like a grown woman in her initial introduction. She was actually closer in age and a full adult to Batman than to Robin. So Batman and Batgirl in the like original comic would make way more sense together because they're both adults. They introduced this concept that Robin, thank you for hitting the like button, appreciate it. They introduced the concept in the comic that Robin had like a crush on Batgirl, but at the time that was inappropriate. Robin was younger, like significantly younger than Batgirl. But then over time, all of Batman's sidekicks kind of start becoming the same age. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but there should be an age gap between them. Like Batgirl should be significantly older than I think all of the Robins. Like if Dick is the oldest Robin, right? But Dick was younger than Batgirl. And then if Jason Todd was supposed to be like younger than Dick, and if Tim, I mean, even if they're all contemporary, even if all the Robins are contemporary, except for Damian or whatever, they still should all be younger than Batgirl. But that's not how we treat them at all. We kind of like age equalize them, but that's not really how it was supposed to work. It's kind of weird. Nerd Tinker said, which Robin though? So I don't know if there's a strong age difference between Dick, Tim, and Jason. There might be, I don't know. For some reason in my head, I think that like Dick should be the oldest, and then like Jason and Dick are probably like a little bit apart, and then Tim and Jason are probably a little bit apart. And then Damien, I think, is perpetually like what 13 now or something like that. Damien doesn't really seem to get older, as far as I can tell. But if Batgirl starts at like 25 or whatever, and if Dick is like a teenager, then it does become weird. It does become weird. Rap King said, so you don't have a problem with Batman and Batgirl being in a relationship? I feel like it's less problematic than Robin and Batgirl being in a relationship because she is like older. She just is older than him, and he's like a teenager. Now that he's Nightwing and he's older too, you could argue that like, oh, well then the age gap is filled or whatever, blah blah blah. But then she knew him as a kid, like when he was definitely younger than her, and then that's kind of weird in of its own right. The reason why I hear people say that they don't like Batman and Batgirl is they're either saying Batgirl is too young, which I think is something that has changed over time. I don't think she was always like too young. If she was like in her 20s or whatever when they met, it's not really that crazy. And then the other argument I've heard is like, it's the daughter of his friend, Commissioner Gordon. It's weird to be with like the daughter of your friend. And it's like, is it if the daughter of your friend is an adult and you've known her as an adult and not like, oh, I'm hanging out with you as a little kid? I don't know. I don't know. And you also have to keep in mind there's stuff like year one that changes it a little bit, right? Because in year one, I think Commissioner Gordon and Bruce are of like a similar age, but Barbara, I think, is a kid in year one. But year one is not really how it originally was. Originally Batgirl is showing up as like a 20-something-year-old, and Batman is like, who is this person? What's going on? Da-da-da-da. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, it depends on how old everybody is now in current continuity. It depends on how old they were when they met each other now in current continuity. But because stuff keeps changing around, you have stuff like Post Crisis and the New 52 and then Rebirth or whatever. I don't know how old these people are. Back when I started reading comics, it was the New 52, and the heroes had only been around for like 5 years or so. And I feel like there's less room for there to be crazy age gaps. But then Rebirth is like, no, 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 no. We're trying to like undo that. It's actually maybe it's been like 15 years. And then after Doomsday Clock, they're like, actually, we're just kind of undoing the whole New 52 in a way. And then after they did Dark Knight's Death Metal, they were like, everything happened actually is all canon, which doesn't make any sense. And now we have a new history of the DC universe, which I haven't finished reading. I do own the new history of the DC universe. I just haven't read all the books. And that doesn't necessarily have dates in it. So it doesn't tell you that much. One of the things I've learned from reading the new history of the DC universe is that Superman and Batman start off as superheroes at a contemporary time, which makes sense, but is vague. Yeah, it doesn't really tell you much anything. All right, jumping back in. Nerd Tinker said, I know Batgirl isn't added in the comics till after the first Robin, which is Dick or Nightwing. Yes, the first Robin is Dick, unless you count Batman being the first Robin, because they did a whole story where Bruce, as a kid, dressed as Robin as a kid, and then worked as a sidekick to the greatest detective of Gotham, which is how Batman learned his detective skills before he went out and trained as an adult. That has since been retconned, but also don't forget everything happened if you go by death metal logic, but also with the new history of the DC universe, not everything happened. We actually have a defined timeline. It's all really weird. But yeah, Dick, I believe, is the first Robin, and that we don't count Batman. Though I do think they did a story not too long ago that tried to say that there was this one girl who was actually the first Robin. She was a villain that the other Robins had to fight. I didn't read that book. I heard about that book. A lot of this is a lot more complicated than it sounds like. Nerd Tanker said, or I believe that's what it is in the comics. Yeah, I believe most people would say Dick Grayson was the first Robin. Nerd Tanker said, in my opinion, Batgirl should be around the same age as Dick. Originally, that's not how it was. Now, that might be how it is, or at the very least, that's current social perception of it. I think they have been re-aged, but I think in the process of them being re-aged, Batgirl is essentially being de-aged. So it's a whole thing. Rap King said, who is the best comic book villain in your opinion? Man, I don't know about the best comic book villain, like period of all time. There is a guy that Red Tornado fights who is able to control machines and living things. But for whatever reason, he couldn't control Red Tornado himself. So there's like a whole story arc where Red Tornado has to fight against the planet, like essentially just the whole world. Like the villain has successfully taken over like all the other heroes and like all of the planet's infrastructure. And it's essentially Red Tornado versus the planet. I thought that was really cool. I can't remember the name of the villain off the top of my head, but I do think it's really hard to have to essentially fight the whole world. And you could say, oh, well, Starro can do something like that, right? Like where he puts the starfish on everybody's face. But like I said, this guy also can control machines and stuff. So Red Tornado wasn't just fighting like all the people and all the heroes. He also was fighting against like the infrastructure of the planet. And you could argue that Poison Ivy can do stuff like that, which he did. There's a storyline where Poison Ivy uses her pheromone stuff to take control of like everybody on Earth. But I think Batman was immune. Like he was prepared for it. And I think Catwoman was prepared. And then I think Harley somehow got immunity. And it was them versus Poison Ivy. And that's also an interesting story. But the guy that Red Tornado fought, who actually controls all the living things and all the machine stuff, I liked a lot. That was one of my favorites that I've read. A character that I haven't read, but I really want to see come back based on stuff I've heard, is Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a villain who hunts non-powered superheroes and kills them. We don't know a lot about Onomatopoeia, but he seems to have a normal family life, and he hides from his normal family that he hunts superheroes. He doesn't seem to have any powers, and apparently there's a whole storyline that I haven't read, but I've watched videos about or whatever, where Onomatopoeia gets in good with Batman, and Batman does not know who he is, and then Batman trusts him so much that he brings him back to the Batcave, and then Onomatopoeia kills Batman's fiance, and now he knows where the Batcave is, and it ends on a cliffhanger. And they have never resolved that, as far as I have heard. Like, after that comic, they like never go back to address that. But I'm like, screw Joker. Onomatopoeia should be one of Batman's biggest rogues because he knows who Bruce is, has been to the Batcave, and killed Bruce's fiance right in front of Bruce. Bruce was there, like, when it happened. I don't think I could let that down. As like Batman, I feel like that would actually mess with me to like an unheard of degree. So I really want to see a follow-up story with Onomatopoeia because that just sounds like such a fertile premise that I would love to see them do more with. Rap King said a lot of people say it's the Joker as the best comic book villain, but they feel like there are more interesting villains than Joker. I agree that there are more interesting villains than the Joker. The Joker is not my favorite comic book villain personally. Nerd Tanker said, you really want to get weird? 3 of Batman's quote-unquote villains want to have a relationship with Batman. Spider-Man is in a similar situation. A lot of heroes have like several femme fatale characters where it's like, but you're a villain, but oh, you're so sexy. And they go back and forth. It's a trope, I would say. Rap King said, a lot of people think Reverse Flash's origins are dumb. What do you think of his origin? From what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, because they're also like 2 very similar characters. They're Reverse Flash and there's Professor Zoom, but they're like different characters. Is Reverse Flash's origin that he's like a fanboy of the Flash and he wanted to be the Flash so bad that he recreates the Speed Force accident, and then he connects to like the anti-Speed Force, the reverse Speed Force or something like that, and then he goes back in time to try and become allies with the Flash, but the Flash doesn't want anything to do with him because he's kind of like a psychopath or whatever, and then that makes him mad and then he hates him? Or is it that the Reverse Flash does the experiment, he gets Flash powers, but then people like the original Flash more or something like that? It's something weird like that, where he admired the Flash, so then he becomes the Flash, but then he's jealous of the Flash, so now he hates the Flash. It's something like that. Let's see. Nerd Tanker said, nope, same character. Are you sure about that? I honestly think they are different people. We'll do a little Googling. Are Reverse Flash and Professor Zoom the same character? Because I think one is like a Wally West villain. The same what? They're the same person? Wait, hold up. There are 2 distinct characters. While Eobard Thawne is Professor Zoom, Hunter Zolomon is simply known as Zoom. Okay, so, well, that's confusing. So Reverse Flash also goes by Professor Zoom, but the villain who's just Zoom is the other guy. So you have Eobard Thawne as Professor Zoom, aka Reverse Flash, and then you have Hunter Zolomon as Zoom, who is just his own guy. Gosh, it's so weird that why use the name that's so close to the other guy? Because he already goes by Reverse Flash, don't call him Professor Zoom. Just call him Reverse Flash. That is very weird. Let's see. I'll do a screen share because I know you guys can't see the thing that I'm talking about. But yeah, apparently 2 characters, similar names. And then in the comics, their costumes are nearly identical, but Zoom's mask usually covers his eyes completely with dark lenses, whereas Professor Zoom's eyes are visible. So even if they roll up on you, you could be like, which one is this? Who am I fighting? So that's weird. But yeah, I think the concept of a fanboy who turns on you can be a compelling enough villain. I mean, is that not Syndrome's origin, more or less, in The Incredibles? Nerd Tinker said Reverse Flash's story is basically like the Flash came to his future, and because he was infatuated by the Flash, he came back to the present but got jealous. I do think you're right. That is something where Flash goes to his time period, and then something happens. Reverse Flash decides to become the Flash in his own right, and then he's jealous of the Flash, and then they fight. Da, 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 da. Let's see. Right now, I'm going to share live on YouTube on different social media platforms so that people know that we're live and currently streaming. I'm always bad about that. I need to do that earlier. Let's see. We were talking about favorite villains earlier. What is everyone's favorite villain? Nerd Tinker said, you really don't want to understand the timeline. It's really screwed up. So I enjoy digging into like the nitty gritty of like comic book canon stuff, but I just haven't been reading as many comics as I used to, and things change a lot fairly quickly. I ran into a friend from high school who was really celebrating the fact that I'm like a big comics guy. And he was asking me about, what stuff have you been into recently? And he was with like a group of friends. And he was telling the group of friends like how informative I am on stuff. And I felt a little awkward because, I just hadn't been up on my stuff in a minute. There are time periods where you could hit me up and I really do feel like I have a solid understanding of everything because I'm actively in the trenches reading the books. And there are other times where you can hit me up and I'm like, I fell off a little bit. I'm not as familiar as I was before, and it can catch me off guard. Nerd Tinker said, I mean, there's Booster's Gold who's trying to fix it, but also he messes it up and he can partner up with himself because why not? And then Nerd Tinker said, most Flashes have time traveled. So Superman to me has some very interesting time loop shenanigans. So Superman is visited by the Legion of Superheroes when he's like a little boy, like before he's become Superman. And the Legion of Superheroes take him to the future and go, hey, did you know that you become Superman who inspires us, the Legion of Superheroes? And then the Legion of Superheroes kind of teach Superman how to be Superman. And then they send him back to the past. And then in the past, he grows up to become Superman, which then inspires the Legion of Superheroes who go back in time to then meet him. Like they have like a complete loop. There's a story where the lightning bolt that turns Barry Allen into the Flash is the Flash. Like the Flash goes back in time as a bolt of lightning and hits himself. So that's where he gets his powers from. There are a lot of these like time loop stories. I've learned a new one the other day. I heard that the Anti-Monitor in one story was portrayed as being the hand at the beginning of the universe. The Anti-Monitor tried to reach backwards in time to destroy the universe, and in the process ends up being the hand that spawns the universe. Currently, the hand is Perpetua. The hand of the universe, by the way, has been several people. It's been Volthoom, the first Green Lantern. It has been the Anti-Monitor, which I just said. It's been Pandora. That was a thing in like the New 52. I need to look into that a little bit more. I'm not sure if they've ever said that it's the presence, but I think that's what a lot of people assume. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Nerd Tanker said Wally West, the latest Flash, outran Death. For a little bit, Barry Allen in the New 52 was Death. There was an event called the Dark Side War, where the Justice League all got turned into different gods, and the Flash became the god of death for like a little bit. Rap King said, I'm trying to make a Mount Rushmore of superheroes. Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman. Who should be the fourth? Wonder Woman or Wolverine? Interesting setup you have here. Okay. I don't think it should be Wonder Woman, personally. I think Wonder Woman is an icon and that she should be celebrated. I have read an entire encyclopedia on Wonder Woman. That's not an exaggeration. I got it for like a birthday gift years ago now. So don't ask me if I remember a ton from it. But I remember enjoying reading it and realizing that Wonder Woman has a lot of rich lore that I feel like isn't fully expressed in her comics proper. I have similar feelings about Black Panther. I think Black Panther is a character who has a lot of like neat and rich lore, but when I read Black Panther comics, it just doesn't come out to me in the same way it does when you put it on like an encyclopedia and you're like reading it verbatim. You're like, oh, this is like so interesting, reading all these entries back to back. And then you go to read the comic itself, and it just doesn't feel like it saturates it as much as it could. But I think Wolverine definitely deserves to be on the Superhero Mount Rushmore. We talked about this recently, like the characters who are the most popular and iconic when it comes to superheroes. I think those would be the ones that you would put on the Mount Rushmore. So I do think like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man is fair. Wolverine is fair. Captain America should also be on Mount Rushmore, I think, like the superhero Mount Rushmore. Um, I feel like there should be more diverse characters also on the superhero Mount Rushmore. But I don't know who you would pick over others. I could definitely see a female X-Men character being on there for sure. Wonder Woman can be on there. It's just when you were like, who is the fourth? I don't know. I just don't think she's in like the top 3 or the top 4 for real, because we just kind of have stats on like the characters that are the most popular. It's a whole thing. Let's see. Nerd Tinker said, so just throw the timeline out the window. I mean, timeline stuff is really crazy. We're getting more and more of these DC Marvel crossovers now. And the DC Marvel crossovers are kind of confusing. They did one recently called Batman Deadpool, and it makes a reference to the other past big DC Marvel crossovers that have happened. But those references feel weird because a lot of the past ones are largely ignored. Like characters often are meeting as if they're meeting for the first time in these crossovers. So to have a crossover that then directly references that we've had crossovers before is awkward, because all the past ones where we act like we've never met before no longer make sense in a context where we definitely have met before and we're referencing the fact that we've met before, if that makes any sense. Also, we got 3 viewers. Can we get up to 3 likes? Truly appreciate it if you smash that like button. Nerd Tinker said, the hell is Wolverine doing on that list? He's more of an anti-hero. Wolverine is one of the most celebrated and popular superheroes. I was talking to Rap King about this the other day, that the X-Men are like up there when it comes to the most popular heroes. The most popular heroes are like Superman, Batman, Captain America, X-Men, Spider-Man. I don't know how Spider-Man didn't reach my lips in there, but Spider-Man's also in there. And when people say that like X-Men is up there, it's like, yeah, but who's the face of the X-Men really? You could say Charles Xavier. I don't think Charles Xavier is the most popular X-Men. I really think the most popular X-Men, bar none, is Wolverine. Wolverine is like the first thing that a lot of people think of when they think of the X-Men, I believe. But yeah, Wolverine's definitely anti-hero. He like kills people and stuff. Rap King said, I think right now Wolverine is more popular, but I think more people know who Wonder Woman is than Wolverine. Wonder Woman is extremely iconic. I'm not saying that there's anyone out there who like knows Wolverine but doesn't know Wonder Woman. Like for sure, Wonder Woman is known in the zeitgeist. But when I talk to people who don't really consume superhero media, who like just watch movies sometimes, you know how often they'll call Wonder Woman Superwoman? It's a lot. It's a lot of people think that like Wonder Woman is just like a female Superman or something. People don't know a lot about Wonder Woman, even though Wonder Woman now has been in several films. She had her own show back in like the 70s or whatever. But I think a lot of people maybe can recognize Wonder Woman, but don't know a lot about Wonder Woman, like at all, about her history and like what she can really do. Did you know one of Wonder Woman's powers is that she can talk to animals? That's a thing Wonder Woman can do. Uh, how often do you see that in anything? Did you know that was something she could do? Like Wolverine is a household name. My mom knows who Wolverine is, and my mom wouldn't accidentally say something like, "Isn't that the Badger or something?" Like, if mom wouldn't see Wolverine and say, "Is that Beast?" or something like that. But I do think there are people I know where you could show them a picture of Wonder Woman and they would go, "Is that Supergirl or whatever?" Like they just don't know, which is bizarre to me. Rap King said, "I think more people know who Wonder Woman is, and Wonder Woman is more influential. But I'll put Wolverine on there. Wonder Woman is a huge influence. Again, I don't want anyone to think that I'm like downplaying Wonder Woman at all. But I think Wolverine is getting downplayed here. Wolverine is like a huge, huge deal of a character in the modern zeitgeist. Nerd Tinker said it's possible. If there's one thing that's good, it's that the X-Men timeline isn't as wonky. We're not talking about the movies, right? Because the X-Men movie timeline is famously complicated and convoluted. I would say the X-Men movie timeline is insane. Nerd Tinker said they maybe have used time travel twice more. If we're talking about the movie, are we talking about the movies for X-Men? Because time travel is a big deal in Deadpool 2 and in Deadpool 3, obviously Deadpool Wolverine. And time travel is a big deal, of course, in Days of Future Past. And Days of Future Past also connects the normal X-Men timeline from the 2000s with the X-Men First Class timeline. All of that stuff is like mixed, smashed together or whatever. It's gross. It's gross. Let's see. Nerd Tinker said one of those times the only thing that changed was the robots weren't made. I gotta disagree. The X-Men movie timeline is like famously convoluted and weird. Rap King said, "Do you think Iron Man is overrated?" I'm actually a pretty big fan of Iron Man, but it depends. There was a run of Iron Man that I really liked called Iron Man 2020. And I liked it all the way up until like the last issue, or you could tell that they were getting ready to switch writers. And they effectively undo most of the story at the end just so that they can move on to the next writer. And I hated that so much. But that is one of my favorite comic book runs. I do recommend people check out Iron Man 2020. Really good book until the end where it sucks. So I don't know. I like Iron Man. Why do you feel like Iron Man is overrated? Like, do you think because he was the first in the MCU that people like heavily inflate his importance or his character or something like that? It's an interesting case study where Iron Man was not a super popular character. The MCU then elevates Iron Man to be like this grand character, one of like the biggest characters in the story. And now Iron Man is like a popular household name. There's a new preschool kids show that my girlfriend Ashley and I actually decided that we were going to check out called Iron Man's Awesome Friends. And it's like a little kid Iron Man with Riri Williams and Amadeus Cho, which, by the way, Riri and Amadeus are like younger characters. But in this show, they're all the same age and they're all kids. And they're all like iron heroes. So Iron Man has hit a level of popularity where they're giving him like brand new shows even now, even though in the current MCU, Iron Man's like super dead or whatever. So I don't know. People seem to genuinely like Iron Man. I genuinely like Iron Man when I think he's written well. It's very relative to whoever's like behind the pen, I would say. Nerd Tinker said maybe I need to catch up on the X-Men movies. The one I remembered the most was where they sent Logan back to get rid of the robots, specifically made to hunt them. So that's Days of Future Past. And there is time travel in that one. I would say the only other ones that have a ton of time travel, Nerd Tinker, if you haven't seen them, are like Deadpool 2. That has like a big time travel thing in it. And then the consequences of the Deadpool 2 time travel come back around in Deadpool 3. It kind of like sets up its sequel. But there's more time travel in it. And then after the Days of Future Past stuff, I believe that's when they start playing around with the fact that there's like a new timeline, because you have like the X-Men First Class X-Men team, and then you have the like 2000s X-Men, and I think they kind of tried to like merge the timelines in a way. To me, it's kind of gross. Let's see. Rap King said, "Do you think they should have recast Black Panther in the MCU?" Spoilers for Black Panther 2. At the end of Black Panther 2, they established that he has like a son. So I don't know. Like, it seems like the current setup that they're doing is Shuri is Black Panther, but I think there's like an animated Wakanda show that I haven't watched. I've heard that they're going to change it from Shuri being the Black Panther to being what's his name? What's his name? M'Baku. I think they're changing it to M'Baku being the Black Panther after Shuri. And then I think Black Panther's son is eventually going to be old enough and they're going to be like his son. So they're trying to set up a legacy thing. If you haven't been keeping track of a lot of the MCU legacy characters, they've set up like a whole bunch of them. Iron Man has a daughter, but there's also Ironheart, but there's also War Machine. You have the new Hawkeye, who's like the younger girl. You have Miss Marvel, which it's silly to have a legacy character for Captain Marvel, a character who has barely existed in universe. Does she need a legacy character yet? She's had like two movies, for real, for real. But I digress. I'm saying we need more of her before we have like this is the next generation. But I do like Miss Marvel, and I actually like Miss Marvel more than Captain Marvel. It just feels really early for her to have a legacy, especially with all these older characters just now getting a legacy. Hulk has a son now in the MCU, Scar. The first Captain America, it's not the first Captain America, but there's like a black Captain America who's not Falcon, who was introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Isaiah Bradley, that's his name. He has, I think, like a nephew or a grandson or something. And that's Patriot in the Young Avengers. We haven't fully set him up, but he exists. And I know that's what they're trying to do. They can't get that past me. Kid Loki is a thing. America Chavez is a thing. Not all of them are like the sons or daughters of people, but they're trying to set up the Young Avengers in the MCU. So with them not recasting Black Panther, I think it's fine because they're trying to move in the direction of the new kids on the block. There are new people who are going to like fill in these seats. So to have the Black Panther seat open is valuable for you to then put someone new in it. In a similar vein, with Iron Man being dead, you then can go, well, who takes that spot? Who goes in that place? And they played around with like maybe Spider-Man goes in that place, which I think is weird. Has anyone ever talked about that? Like Iron Man's best friend is Rhodey, James Rhodes, who has the War Machine armor. Iron Man trusts James Rhodes with his life. But you don't trust him to be the successor, Tony? Why is it Peter? Pepper Potts in like the Infinity War thing puts on a rescue armor and like fights in Endgame. And Pepper Potts and Tony, of course, love each other and have a daughter, and he trusts her. Why isn't she the successor to Iron Man? Why doesn't it get passed down to her? You know, Iron Man is friends with like so many individuals that could just be like the next one. So why aren't they? I just think that's so odd. It's so odd. Nerd Tinker said Miss Marvel isn't a legacy character. She's a hero who's a fan of Captain Marvel, hence the name Miss Marvel. That is true that she is a fan of Captain Marvel, but she maps pretty cleanly to the like, if Scar is to Hulk, then Miss Marvel is to Captain Marvel. I think that's fair to say. I don't think that's too out of pocket to say. Let's see. Nerd Tinker said Miss Marvel's powers are light-based, from what I understand, and she uses it like Reed Richards. So she can make constructs is like the big thing. Normally in the comics, she embiggens and shapeshifts and things of that nature. So a lot of it has to do with her making her hand really big so she can do a big punch fist. making her legs really big so that she can kind of be giant or whatever. But they wanted to give her more Green Lantern like abilities. And to be honest, I like the MCU Green Lantern style abilities from Miss Marvel. She's a fun character. She was the most fun character in the Marvels. So I like Miss Marvel a lot, and I like her more than Captain Marvel. But she definitely is being propped up to be a legacy character for Captain Marvel, for sure. That's why she's in the Marvels and set up the way that she is. Let's see. Rap King said, "Do you watch Comic Book Cast 2?" I've seen that username before, but no, I do not. In terms of comic book YouTubers, I love shouting people out. By the way, I'm a big fan of trying to like support YouTube channels, especially YouTube channels that I like. So the comic book YouTubers that I like, let's get this news pop up thing out of here. Comic Pop is really good. They have a show called Back Issues that my friend Dozer and I really like. What is another comic book? Here we go. Casually Comics is one that I really like. It's run by Sasha. Sasha does a lot of deep dives into different comic book stuff. I've been watching a good bit of Casually Comics. I probably watch that more than I do of Back Issues. Sometimes I watch Blurred Without Fear. Blurred Without Fear, Blur standing for like Black Nerd. A lot of his videos recently have specifically been talking about how there are a lack of black characters with prominent titles nowadays. Rap King said, "Were you sad when Comic Storian passed away?" I try to dodge a lot of like death stuff. Like when Akira Toriyama died, I tried to avoid talking with people about the death of Akira Toriyama because I do get sad when people die. And often the way that I like deal with it is to try to not talk about it too much. From my understanding, Comic Storian's channel is still going on, like is still moving forward with new content. But I have not tuned into it since he passed. I do think the channel is a part of his legacy, and it's cool that it continues forward. But I just feel like it wouldn't be the same. So I do not watch modern Comic Story, but it's cool that it keeps going. I'm an advocate for legacy and the idea of like having something that you leave behind that keeps growing even after you're gone. So while I support the idea of the channel continuing to have new videos, I personally do not watch those videos simply to protect myself like emotionally. Nerd Tanker said, "It's not about being a good successor. It's about the idea of who will make technology go farther." And he thought Peter would. He knows other scientists. I mean, even though Iron Man knows other scientists, maybe he doesn't want like Hank Pym Ant-Man to be the next Iron Man. Maybe he doesn't want the Hulk to be the next Iron Man, though that would be tough. You got to admit that would be tough. What about the lady who invented the when they make the Vision body, they do so using a technology that was created by like an Asian woman scientist character that was in Avengers 2. Don't remember her name off the dome, but she was smart and interesting, and I would love to see more of her in the MCU. I feel like they don't use her enough. She would have been a neat scientist person to have given, the stuff to. I don't know. I don't know. I think there are plenty. Shuri would have been an interesting character to have given the Iron Man helm to. Because I know we gave her the Black Panther helm, but from what I understand, it is now gone to M'Baku. I may be wrong on that. Please, someone who's watched the Wakanda show, tell me who's currently Black Panther. I don't know. But Shuri would have been a cool Black Panther, in all honesty. Let's see. Nerd Tanker said, I don't get as. Oh, sorry. Nerd Tanker said, I don't get sad as everyone dies, but if someone dies young, like Robin Williams, then I get sad. It's interesting to say when someone dies young. I mean, I guess there's like a difference between somebody is like 90 or 100 or something and they die, and you go, oh, that's expected. But what counts is like, I guess young where you're like sad or whatever. If someone dies at like 60, I'm still sad. If someone dies at like 70, I'm still sad. Even if someone dies at like 100, I think I'm sad. I don't really think the age affects me being sad. It's more just the fact that they're gone and they're gone forever. You know? Rap King said, "Do you Watch Mojo?" I used to when I was younger a good bit. I don't really watch Mojo like nowadays. Ashley and I have a thing where we exchange TV days. So every other day, it's the other person's TV day. So today is Ashley's TV day. Tomorrow is my TV day. And she'll sometimes put on one of the like Watch Mojo offshoots because there are other channels that are similar to Watch Mojo that are part of their like Mojo umbrella. She'll sometimes put that on, but I normally don't put on Watch Mojo. Rap King said, "Who do you think is Peter Parker's true successor, Miguel or Miles?" There's like a huge generational gap between those two. Like, for one, Miles is Peter's successor in the like original Ultimate Universe. In current continuity, Miles is less a successor and more a contemporary. Miles and Peter are both Spider-Man at the same time. The same can be true for like Wally West and Barry Allen, where Barry died at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Wally West becomes the new Flash. But then in modern continuity, Barry and Wally are just both the Flash, and it's fine for them to just both be the Flash. I say that's the case in modern continuity. Another thing that I'm behind on, does Barry have powers right now? I could have sworn I saw something that said that Barry doesn't currently have powers, and I cannot tell you if that is true or not. Uh, so I got a gap. Because I used to like really keep my nose to the grindstone on a lot of comic stuff. I'm just behind on a few things. But I would say Miles is not as much a successor as he is a contemporary. So they're just both here at the same time. And Miguel is like a legacy character way down the line because he's in 2099, which I know now 2099 is not that far away. It's pretty far to where I'll probably be dead by the time of the year 2099. But like someone who's born today could live to see like 2099. But it used to be a long time away from where we were in continuity. I actually read the first issue of 2099 The End just yesterday, I believe. They're trying to do like a wrap up on the 2099 universe. We'll see if that lasts. But the first issue is pretty good. A little cliche. If you've ever read a story where it's like cosmic entities are using the superheroes as game pieces in order to compete with one another, it's one of those. But I like it for what it is. Nerd Tinker said, that's what I understood about why Tony chose Peter, but I don't know why still. Successor wise, there's more comics that contain Miles than Miguel. Doopa-doopa-doo. I don't, what? Okay. I don't know if that's true either. I mean, Miles is prolific. He's been around for like a good bit now, but Miles Morales is from like the last like less than 30 years or so. Like Miles has not been around that long. Miguel O'Hara in the whole like 2099 universe is from like the 90s. And Miles is in a lot. Like you might be right. Miles maybe has been in more books, but it feels weird because Miguel has been around for significantly longer than Miles. He is a product of the 90s, and Miles is what? A product of like the 2010s or something? And I just mentioned a second ago, I read a 2099 comic the other day. It's not even like 2099 was a thing in the 90s and then they like stopped doing it or something. It's an on and off thing for sure. We've lived through a few different attempts to like reboot the 2099 continuity. This new The End could even be another reboot for the 2099 continuity. They're hinting at 3099 maybe being the next big thing. Woo. But I don't know. I don't know if Miles has actually been in more comics than Miguel. Maybe he has. Miles has had like several series within the last few years. It's just kind of crazy because it just sounds like Miguel should have more because he's been around for longer, but not necessarily, I guess. Nerd Tanker said yes and no. Depends on the berry. Rap King said a lot of people hate modern comics because they say they're woke. Okay, comic books have been woke the whole time, and I am fine with things being quote unquote woke, because all woke really means, right, is being like socially aware, like aware of how the world is. uh X-Men is inherently about like minority groups, not necessarily just like, disagreements between like black and white people, like any kind of minority group. The mutants are meant to be like a representation. I mean, yeah, they're quite literally representation of like minority groups and how they're treated and how they like deal with their place in society. X-Men has always been political. Captain America and Superman are both like symbols of America, and their comics portray how they react to changes in the country. You know, Superman has dropped the like freedom, justice, and the American way from what he says. He doesn't say stuff like that anymore. Captain America, for a while, when he disagreed with the country, became nomad, and he just wasn't Captain America anymore because he disagreed with how far the country had shifted from his values. Those characters are inherently political. Back in the day, during the Bronze Age of comics, you have like Green Arrow and Green Lantern traveling around the country representing two different sides of politics, with Green Arrow being more left wing and Green Lantern being more right wing. Inherently political. It's been political the whole time. So to me, it's goofy when people try to say like, "Oh, comic books are woke. They make comic books woke." It's been political the entire time, and that's fine. Comics are meant to be socially relevant. They're meant to represent the world outside your window, and the world outside your window is like a messy and political place, and therefore comics are as well messy and political. Some comics take things farther than others. That's not always a bad thing. It really depends on the direction that you take it and how crazy you go with it, because some things can border on extremist. For example, Frank Miller, the guy who made The Dark Knight Returns, wanted to make a Batman comic that talked about like terrorism stuff, and DC was like, no. So then he made it his own thing. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I heard it didn't do particularly well. Let's say that. So you can go a little hard with it sometimes, and it can turn people off. It really depends on what you're saying, right? Do 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 do. Okay, Nerd Tinker said, I know that when it comes to the timeline of the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales is supposed to be the next Spider-Man of his respective universe after Peter dies. That is accurate. So in the original Ultimate Universe, Peter died and Miles became Spider-Man. But then there was an event in, I think, the 2010s where they merged Miles into the normal 616 continuity. So in the current comics, they act as if Miles has always existed in the same universe as the main universe Peter. So instead of it being like Peter died and Miles is now taking up the helm, it's like Peter and Miles both coexist and both are Spider-Man at the same time. It's like that. But in the movie for the Spider-Verse films, they're doing like the Ultimate Universe thing, like the original Ultimate Universe with the Peter Spider-Man is dead and now Miles is Spider-Man taking up the helm. So you are correct in that. Also, don't forget to smash that like button if you haven't already. Rap King said, oh, wait, hold up. Nerd Tanker said, as for Miguel, he's in the future where there is no Spider-Man and recreates Spider-Man like Reverse Flash did. It is funny to see the like similarities between the two, but I believe Miguel was experimented on. Reverse Flash experiments on himself, whereas I think Miguel is like experimented on against his will and turned into what he becomes. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Rap King said, do you think comics are better than manga? I read comics. I read manga. I read more comics than I read manga. I like comics more than manga, but I'm not saying that manga is bad. I think that's a fair answer. So I like comics more than manga, but manga isn't bad at all. Nerd Tinker said, this is why I stick to movies, though, as trying to piece together timelines in general is confusing, especially when there's time travel or like multiverse stuff involved. it gets really convoluted. I definitely understand why you would want to avoid stuff like that. I complain to my friend Ryan all the time about how weird continuity is, and Ryan always goes, "Well, why do you watch it? Is bad. Why do you read it? Is bad. You just don't have to interact with it." But I like it. Part of the fun is trying to make sense of all the gobbledygook, and also picking at when they try to make it make sense and then they fail to make it make sense because they sure love to do that. They do that way too much. When I was reading comics, Cyborg was a founding member of the Justice League. Current continuity says that the Justice League gets together when Darkseid attacks, but they don't form the Justice League just yet. That's just like the heroes starting to meet each other or whatever. And Cyborg was there and helped fight Darkseid, which is what I remember from the comic. But then they're like, afterwards, Cyborg isn't on the Justice League. He falls essentially into like a coma or whatever, and then later Cyborg comes out of the coma, but it's a thing where he didn't age. He was like in a stasis thing, and then he actually is a founding member of the Titans. And that's so gross because there are so many comics from the New 52 where Cyborg is just on the Justice League, and I guess he just wasn't there. So who was there, DC? Who was the tech guy who did all the things that Cyborg did? What about in Forever Evil, where the Justice League had to fight evil versions of themselves, and there was an evil Cyborg who tried to take over normal Cyborg? If normal Cyborg was in stasis, then who did he try to take over? Who was the guy on the team was there a different guy from Earth 3 that was the evil guy instead of the evil Cyborg? Did evil Cyborg not show up because normal Cyborg wasn't there? They try to like plug in the holes, but then they create new holes trying to plug in the holes. It's stupid, but it's fun. It's part of the fun. Nerd Tinker said, take the Multiverse of Madness movie, for example. You see multiple multiverses. Each one was different in one way or another. Multiverse of Madness was a fun but disappointing movie. I think they shouldn't have called the movie Multiverse of Madness because they barely do any multiverse stuff in it. Deadpool 3, aka Deadpool and Wolverine, would actually do better with the title Multiverse of Madness than Multiverse of Madness would, in my opinion, personally. Nerd Tinker said, search it up if you don't believe me. I'm pretty sure Miguel is Spider-Man 2099. I'm not doubting you on that at all. Miguel 100% is Spider-Man 2099. The thing that I was doubting is Reverse Flash experiments on himself to become Reverse Flash. I think Miguel gets experimented on by Alchemex, which is like the company that he works for, and that turns him into Spider-Man. Like, I don't think Miguel is like, oh, I look up to Spider-Man and I'm going to try to make myself Spider-Man. I think Miguel is experimented on, and then it makes him into a Spider-Man, and then he then rebels against Alchemex. I think that's his story. Could be wrong. Rap King said, what is the worst comic book you have ever read? So whenever people ask me, like, what's your worst or least favorite or whatever, it's hard for me to name it a lot of the times, because if I don't like something, I probably didn't finish it. It's probably some other thing that, sorry, it's weird to say some other thing. It's probably something that I started and then I said, oh, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. And then I put it to the side. But how often do you remember stuff like that? Like where you look at a thing and then you like don't finish it. You normally forget about it. So I guess the question is, what's the worst comic that I remember, or the worst comic that like I actually read all the way through, which shows that I liked it to some degree, right, for me to finish it. But then at the end said, it's not about anything. I think bad stuff is too off the top of my head. So give me some time on questions like that. I don't have a good answer for you right now for that particular question. Nerd Tanker said, again, timelines in general are confusing, but the Cyborg we know is technically supposed to grow up to be in the Justice League. And Nerd Tanker said, nope, requested by Alchemax to recreate Spider-Man. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I remember it being something where like Alchemax is trying to get Miguel to do the thing. But does Miguel know that it's going to like turn him into Spider-Man? Because I think the whole thing with Miguel O'Hara is that he works for Alchemax, but Alchemax are his villain. Like, he doesn't like them. And he's trying to use his Spider-Man powers to stop Alchemax. But I think Alchemax doesn't know that he is Spider-Man. But if Alchemax hired him and said, "Hey, we want you to become Spider-Man. Like our goal is for you to be Spider-Man," then they would just know that he was Spider-Man. So I don't think that works. Like I think Miguel is like an inside man. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I probably just need to pull up and like Google it or whatever. I guess I'll do that now. Boop 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 boop. Let's see. Rap King said, "Are you more excited for Doomsday or Brand New Day?" Doomsday. What? Are you excited for just a Spider-Man movie or a movie that's supposed to have like everybody in it and be like one of the biggest superhero movies of all time? Yeah, definitely Doomsday for sure. It's funny they both have day in the name. Let's see. Did Spider-Man 2099 try to become Spider-Man on purpose? Because that's my main question, right? No, that's what I thought. Yeah, he did not intend to become a superhero. His transformation was an unintended side effect of a desperate attempt to save his own life. While he was an expert geneticist at Alchemax, who was specifically researching how to recreate the original Spider-Man's powers. So you're right, he was specifically researching how to recreate the powers. His personal transformation occurred under very different circumstances. After Miguel tried to quit Alchemax, his boss tricked him into taking Rapture, a highly addictive drug that bonds to a person's DNA. The experiment: to purge the drug from his system, Miguel used his own genetic splicing equipment to overwrite his current addicted DNA with a clean sample of his DNA from before the poisoning. A jealous supervisor sabotaged the process by splicing Miguel's DNA with that of a spider, hoping it would kill him. But then it doesn't kill him, and it makes him into Spider-Man. Yeah, so he wasn't trying to become Spider-Man, but he was researching how to make someone become Spider-Man. I knew it was something dumb like that, like where it wasn't his intention to be Spider-Man. Nerd Tanker said, "I don't know the exact backstory. I just know Miguel was asked to recreate Spider-Man." Yeah, no, he was. Like, you are accurate in that. We're both right. Where it's like he wasn't trying to be Spider-Man, but he was researching how to make someone Spider-Man. The plan wasn't for him to be Spider-Man. It was just to figure out how to do it. Rap King said, "Do you think Spider-Man is the most interesting Marvel character, or are there more characters that are interesting in him?" The Sentry is my favorite Marvel character. I'm not sure if I've said that before. But Sentry is my dog. So I've made it a goal to read all of the Sentry comics that are like the title is Sentry, like the name on the front of the book is Sentry. That means I actually haven't read a good bit of Sentry stuff because he's also been in like Avengers runs and stuff like that, and I haven't read those. If Sentry gets a comic that's just him, I read all of those books. And there's a new Sentry run that's out that I have not started reading because I have the Marvel Unlimited subscription, and Marvel Unlimited is fairly behind what's on the shelf. So I can read stuff like months after it's come out with Marvel Unlimited. Whereas with DC, I have DC Universe Infinite at like its highest tier. I think it's like the Ultra tier. I can read stuff a month after it comes out. If I buy stuff directly, I can read it more or less when it comes out, at least when it comes out on digital, because I don't really go to stores that much. Though shout out to Haven Comics. It's like a local shop. I think they're like a really nice shop. So if you're ever in the area, shout out to Haven. Good people there. Let's see. But Sentry is my favorite Marvel character, and I find him more interesting than Spider-Man personally. Miles may vary. The Nerd Tanker said, like I said, confusing in general. Agreed. Comic book stuff is confusing in general. Rap King said, "Can we agree that Spider-Man fans are annoying? There's like, Spider-Man is the best Marvel character. I'm like, there are better characters in Marvel." I agree. There's a period of time where I was going on dates with this girl named Bailey back in college. And Bailey had a friend who was such a Spider-Man lover, like to such a crazy degree. She was like, Spider-Man can beat the Hulk. Spider-Man can do this, that, and third, or whatever. Da-na-na-na. And it did annoy me that she was like just so much on Spider-Man. Spider-Man is cool. He can do a lot of stuff. He is not the best guy ever. He's not the best superhero since Superman or anything like that. I agree that Spider-Man is a little overrated and that people ride on Spider-Man a little too hard. That might be a hot take. But it's one that we agree on. Let's see. I failed to share the link with a whole bunch of people. I get like wrapped into the show and then I don't like post the link everywhere. So I only posted the link in like 2 places. So remind me tomorrow to do a better job at sharing the live stream link so that more people know what's going down. I mentioned to a few people recently that like, hey, I'm like live streaming again. And there are people who want to join the live streams and be in them who just have like not been paying attention to the channel since I stopped live streaming back in the day, who are like, what? You're streaming it? And they like want to get involved. So I need to do a better job of sharing the videos with people like that so that they can get back in these streams. Because I know this is something that people have been wanting for a hot minute. I see that we have 3 viewers. Can we get up to 3 likes? Truly appreciate it. But tomorrow I just need to do a better job of like sharing the link and putting the link out there. And if you guys ever want to share the link to the stream during the show with people that you think would be interested in watching it, definitely feel free to do so. I'm just doing a bad job of doing it myself. So I need to do that more in the future. Let's see. Later today, Ashley and I are going to go to Cookout. We have a regular date where we get milkshakes at Cookout. I order 7 shakes at Cookout every week on Mondays. Cookout is like the best value for milkshakes. And you may disagree with me. You may be like, what do you mean it's the best value for milkshakes? What about Steak and Shake? What about Handles? I don't know if Handles is regional. You guys may not know what Handles even is. But Cookout has a whole bunch of shake flavors. Let me open this image in a new tab. You're not going to be able to see it in the new tab. You can at the very least see that this says there are 40 plus shake flavors. That is true. There are 40 plus shake flavors at Cookout, and you can combine them however you want, and they don't charge you any more money for the combinations. So I get a shake with like 7 different flavors in it, and I get 7 of those. I do that every week. It's great. I love it. Let's see. Rap King said, do you still play that skateboard game, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk? I played Bomb Rush Cyberfunk for a long time. I already beat the game shortly after I bought it, and then I was doing some of the combo challenges, and then I got stuck on one of the combo challenges where I just couldn't figure out how to game it in order to like hit the combo amount. And then I haven't really played it since then. They are making a sequel to Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. I believe it's called Hyperfunk. And I am interested in Hyperfunk. Hyperfunk is a game that I want to pick up. Can we get up to 3 likes? 3 likes. Boop, 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 boop. I definitely would love that. They're making a sequel to Jet Set Radio. So let me put that in. Yeah, there we go. A reboot, I think. I don't think it's a proper sequel, but they're making a reboot to Jet Set Radio. And I'm afraid that Hyperfunk and Bomb Rush Cyberfunk are just going to be better than the Jet Set Radio reboot. I kind of feel like that's already baked in that the reboot's going to be worse. I think that's crazy because Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is like a spiritual successor to this. So fingers crossed that the Jet Set Radio game is actually good and that we just have a whole bunch of new grind funk games. That's what I've heard people call the genre, grind funk. Tell me if you think that's a good name or not. Rap King said, will you ever stream while playing a game? Rap King, you were here the other day when I was playing the YouTube playables. But yeah, I do think I might do some game streaming stuff in the not too distant future, other than just the YouTube playable stuff. It all depends. I am going to join a game jam soon. So I guess this is going to be my announcement of joining the game jam. So I recently was in a game jam. And the game jam I was in a couple. So there's one that doesn't close submissions for 8 days. It's like a St. Patrick's Day game jam thing. I'm pretty proud of the game that I submitted to that. And I think I did a better job than what I did on this one. This one is already finished. And I placed 13th, which is not super good. In all honesty, this had a total of 23 people. So 13 puts me like not at right in the middle, right? But I guess like a little middle down. I guess it's weird. But I did fairly middle of the road in terms of the game that I submitted. But I think when I'm doing game jam stuff, I might actually stream some of the game jam stuff. I think that could be like a cool thing for us to do. Let's see. Rap King said, and I'm glad you remember my name is Rap King because I changed my YouTuber name so many times. Uh, I mean, you also have been consistently leaving like comments and stuff. So it's not too hard to remember that your name is Rap King. Sometimes people jump in and I'm like, oh, is this like Godzilla? And they'll be like, I don't go by Godzilla anymore. It's been so long since I've been called Godzilla. Dun, 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 dun. So I don't think you've necessarily changed your name as much as other people, or if you have changed your name as much, you've done a good job of keeping communique to where I still know what the names are. Nerd Tanker said he knows if he wants to Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm always available on Nexus. That's true. I do see that like Yu-Gi-Oh would be like fairly easy thing because clearly I can stream browser stuff. So any game that you could play in the browser, I could probably do on stream and it would be fine. So that's another thing for me to think about. I've been curious if you guys would be interested at all in dev stuff. So as a like hobby, I've been really interested in like coding. As you can see, I'm like joining game jams where you have to like build your own games and stuff like that. And I do think it would be kind of fun to do streams that are a little bit of like behind the scenes. Like I'm talking to you guys, we're doing Ask Me Anything stuff, but I'm also actively like making something, like I'm programming while I'm talking to you guys. I think that could be cool, but I don't know if that's something that you guys would like or not. Rap King said, I know you like milkshakes. Do you like Dairy Queen? So Cookout is my favorite. Dairy Queen is neat. I don't have any issues with Dairy Queen at all. I do have a specific Dairy Queen order that I like to get. Okay, so you guys can't see what I just did. So I'm trying to search for my Dairy Queen order, and I guess the AI search is a thing that I can do on my phone, but isn't necessarily something that I can do on like the browser. So I was annoyed because I typed in Dairy Queen and it didn't come up. I'm like, it should have definitely immediately come. But this is my Dairy Queen order. Whenever I go to Dairy Queen, I try to get a large Blizzard Oreo fudge brownie. Oreo fudge brownie is like the base flavor. So they sell a thing that's called Oreo fudge brownie off rip. And then I get on top of that mix-ins. So I get peanut butter, Reese's. Reese's Pieces is seasonal. You can't always get Reese's Pieces. So they're often going to be like, hey, we can't put in the Reese's Pieces. And I like to get cookie dough. So this is like my go-to Dairy Queen order when I go to Dairy Queen. But I don't really go to Dairy Queen that often. Like I'm saying, Cookout is where it's at because the value for Cookout is crazy. You got to understand, this Dairy Queen shake cost a pretty penny for what it is. Because they're going to charge you for every one of those mix-ins. So you have like the base price of a large Blizzard, and then they add on the peanut butter costs more money, the Reese's costs more money, the Reese's Pieces costs more money, the cookie dough costs more money. But I'll show you what I get from Cookout, my go-to Cookout order. So when I go to Cookout, I get peanut butter fudge, Oreo peanut butter, chocolate malt, mocha, Reese's cup. And I get 7 of those. And it costs me like $30. But it lasts me the whole week. I get a whole week of milkshakes for like $30. If I went to Dairy Queen and ordered the Dairy Queen shake that I just showed you and got 7 of them, it would probably cost me closer to like 100 and whoa. Hold on a second. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. That might be accurate. It might cost me like $100 something for me to get like 7 of those. Because whenever you add stuff to like the base shake price, it adds up. Plus, you're getting like a size up because it's like a large, it's not like a base or whatever. So to get a Cookout shake where they don't charge you for the individual stuff at all is great. I think each shake only costs around like $2.99 or something like that. Then you add in tax. It's very fair, and they give you a good variety, and they don't skimp on anything, by the way. If you go to Dairy Queen like 3 days in a row and you order the same thing, sometimes somebody's gonna like go ham and they're gonna really like stack up your stuff. And then other times you're gonna get it and you're gonna notice that they went light on you. They didn't really give you all the stuff that you wanted for real. Cookout is not like that. Cookout goes hard almost every time. The only reason why I say almost is because some people at Cookout describe themselves as being clever, but I feel like what they're really doing is they're not doing the order right. So the clever thing that some people try to do who work at Cookout is they'll say, well, you're getting peanut butter fudge. So why would I put in like chocolate malt? Like I'll maybe give you malt, but I'm not going to put in more chocolate because you already got peanut butter fudge. And then this says Oreo peanut butter, but you already got peanut butter over here. So I'm just going to put Oreo in it. They'll do stuff like that. And then you end up getting like less than what you really asked for. I know it's redundant. I wrote the list. When I say peanut butter fudge and I say Oreo peanut butter, I want you to put the peanut butter in it again. I want more of the thing. When I order peanut butter fudge, which has like chocolate, and then I say I want chocolate malt, I want the chocolate again. Mocha has chocolate in it because I want more chocolate. So some people try to break it down so that they're not doing like the redundant stuff, and you can tell. Like, I think that they think that I can't taste when they don't go like whole hard on it, but I can tell. Please put all the stuff in it. That's why I made the list. But the people at Cookout are great. They recognize me when I walk in. There's one guy in particular. I think he's the manager. When I walk into Cookout, he's like, hey, he's like really happy to see us or whatever. I mean, we're giving him like over $30 a week because Ashley also will eat there because we have a date at Cookout that we do. So the manager's happy to see us. We're returning happy customers and everything. So no shade toward Cookout, no shade at all. Back in college, I even offered to dress up as their mascot for a video, but they didn't have the mascot suit. They have a guy named Shaky. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of Shaky the mascot. Shaky Cookout. Yeah. I was going to put on one of these stupid shaky suits and run around or whatever. But they never brought in a shaky suit. They don't have one on hand at my local Cookout. Rap King said, and Nick, do you have a car now? Because I remember you said you didn't drive years ago. So I used to have a car. Back in late college, I got a car and I drove for a while. I get mad anxiety when driving specifically. When people even bring up the idea that I need to drive a car, it just messes with me. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. When I took my driver's test for the first time, my dad essentially said, you can't get in trouble for going too slow. So I got like a passing score on the test. And then the driver instructor said, you went too slow, so I can't in good conscience give you your license. Even though you got a passing score, you got to go the speed limit. So that was like a waste of my time. But then when I went in for the second time and did my driving test, I got like a perfect score. I straight up just like passed the test, best score you could get. But whenever I would drive, I would need like music, and often I would need to like sing the music or whatever. But I get like really in my head when I'm driving. So if someone else on the road messes up, I don't even have to mess up. If someone else on the road is like driving too fast, they're honking, they're doing something, it throws me all out of whack. And I just personally like can't handle that. It's just too much for me. I just don't drive. So I willingly gave my car to a family friend, Trevor. He owns my car. That's not my car anymore. And I pay Ashley for gas money every month. And Ashley more or less drives me wherever I go. But that's not really that crazy. I don't really go places. So the main places that I go on a regular basis, I hang out with my brother every other week. and we go to Longhorn. And often Ashley will take me to Longhorn, and then my brother will take me back. We have a writers club at Low Mill. It's like a local like art installation, and Ashley goes to writers club as well. So it's not like she's dropping me off kind of thing. I get my groceries ordered, so I don't go to the grocery store anymore. That's a recent thing. Now I just do Walmart Plus, so no one has to like take me to the grocery store. I try to hang out with my dad at least once a week on Fridays. And dad has a new car that he really likes, so he loves driving his car around. So he comes to pick me up for that. Uh, those are the main things. And then sometimes Ashley and I will hang out with friends outside of the house, but it's Ashley and I together going to hang out with friends. So it's not like Ashley's driving me to a friend hangout and then dropping me off and leaving or something. It's like us going together anyways. So it's not like she's a constant chauffeur taking me this way, that way. I just don't go places. Oh, also, we go to Cookout, but that's also a date where Ashley and I are going on a date to Cookout. Rap King said, I need some advice. Hit me up. Hit me up. Advice corner. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. What do you need? I'll try my best. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily the best person to ask for advice. It depends on the advice, but we will see. Do, 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 do. I'm about to pull up a graphic. Rap King said, I have this best friend that has this girlfriend, and he wants me to hang out with them, but I don't really feel comfortable hanging out with them because I don't want to feel like a third wheel. Just be honest and tell them that. That's my advice. Like, it can be awkward for sure, especially depending on the circumstance or whatever. And some people are more chill about that than others. But if you don't feel comfortable, you're totally within your right to tell someone that you're uncomfortable. And a lot of people are understanding of that. Do you think you would feel more comfortable if it was like an even number of people? Like it could be you, your friend, their girlfriend, and then another mutual friend. Like if there were like 4 people, would it be a little more comfortable? Or do you feel like the comfort would come from it being like a true double date? Like unless you were with another person as well, it's not quite the same. Like I'm just trying to get like a vibe for how you're feeling. Rap King said, yes, if it was an even number, so I'm not in the wrong. Well, for one, I don't think you're like in the wrong, right? By like being at a thing. If they invite you to something, then they want you to be there. And that's not like a super crazy thing. Uh, but I understand like the idea of maybe feeling uncomfortable, like you're like invading. I only think you should feel like you're invading on them if you're inviting yourself into like a hangout thing. But if they're inviting you to a hangout, then I don't really see that as like an invasion at all. Advice corner, advice corner. This graphic is a little bland, I will say, but it is accurate. But yeah, let me know if you have any other advice-based questions. So you feel like even if they invite you, you feel like you're in the wrong. That's interesting. I mean, the important thing is your comfort, right? If you feel uncomfortable, then it's fine for you to let them know that and to say like, hey, you don't necessarily want to go like hang out if it's not like an even number of people because you feel like you're third wheeling. So I think you're totally valid in that, and you should tell them that, and they should understand. In all honesty, I think often when there's a situation where someone feels uncomfortable, as long as that person is transparent about their discomfort from the get-go, then everyone can be on the same page and they can like work around it. I think the worst thing that you could do is to like not say anything about it. Like if you were to keep it to yourself, then that leads to like weird miscommunication stuff. So definitely let them know that you like feel like a third wheel and that you would prefer that if you're all going to hang out together, that it be like a 4-person thing rather than a 3-person thing, or like a 4 plus. Like, because I imagine even if it was like a 5-person thing, you would still feel comfortable, so long as it wasn't like 2 couples in you. It's because I can see where it could be like a 5-wheeler at that point. But as long as there's like an even number of people and not everybody is coupled up, that you think it could be like a comfortable thing, that's fine for you to like bring up. Okay. We've gone a little bit over the normal time. It's like an hour and 20 minutes into the stream. I need to use the bathroom. My goal is to try and stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for around an hour each day. On Fridays, I may or may not stream. No guarantee to hang out with my dad on Fridays, which is why I can't give a clear guarantee for Fridays. But maybe short streams on Friday. Who knows? But I expect to see you guys again tomorrow for another stream. Thank you to Nerd Tanker and Rap King for hanging out. Thank you to everybody who like hopped into the stream at any point in time. Even if you didn't chat in the live chat, please chat in the live chat. Truly appreciate it. Have a great day. Nerd Tanker, Rap King, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Let people know that we're doing the live streams again. And thank you all once again. There's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black One Only, logging out. Peace, guys. Check it out.